But it's just different amounts of capital, just like we were talking about with factories. So this would be, say, short-run cost curve with 1 factory, with 2 factories, with 3 factories, with 4 factories, with 5 factories. And then the long run is the red one, and the red one is just tracing out the lowest portion, which is the green to here, and then this one to there, and then the yellow one, and then the pink one, and then the blue one. So that's called the long run average total cost curve. Okay. So last thing we have here is the vocabulary that describes what's happening to the average cost in the long run. So for this business, as they increase output, then their average cost in the long run will keep going down, and so that's called economies of scale or increasing returns to scale. That means the same thing. Then, as they increase production, their average costs are not changing much, so constant returns to scale. And then as they really start to increase their output, we have rising average costs, which is then the opposite words, diseconomies or decreasing returns to scale. Okay, so last thing we have to talk about is the shape of the curves. And I need you guys in the back to please be quiet. Thank you. All right, so what we have to do is talk about the shape of the curves now. So the long run and the short run curves have a similar shape. Now I'm going to make this one a short run, and then I'll make this one a long run. So both are what we call U-shaped, but for different reasons. Okay, shh. You can't see? Oh, right. I have to switch it. Thank you. But still, you guys in the back have to stop talking, because I know you weren't talking about the fact that you couldn't see it. All right. Okay. So these two curves have a similar shape. So let's go over why this one is U-shaped. So this one, short run average total cost, is the sum of average fixed cost plus average variable cost. Because in the short run, you have a fixed cost. And the fixed cost, as you increase output, will be spread out. And so the average fixed cost will go down as you produce more output, and that was called the spreading effect, right? Your fixed costs will get spread out. However, as you increase production, your workers will become less productive because you will have more workers sharing the same capital. Less capital per worker means that your average variable cost will go up because your workers are becoming less productive. And so that was called the diminishing returns effect. So what happens to the average total cost just depends on which of these two effects is stronger. So from here to here, so up to the minimum point, from here to here, the spreading effect is stronger. And then beyond that, the diminishing returns effect is stronger. So stronger spreading effect, meaning that the down change of the average fixed cost outweighs the up change of the average variable cost. And then over here it becomes the opposite. This up change is more significant than the down change. So then here we have a stronger diminishing returns effect. Now, in the long run, none of this applies because in the long run there is no fixed cost. So the long run average total cost curve none of this applies. There's no fixed or variable in the long run. Long run is just total, right? So there's no fixed and variable. Everything's variable in the long run, right? You can change everything. So what we have to talk about then is why in the long run then would your costs go down, your costs go up? Okay, and it's much more simple. Much more simple. All right, so first of all, oh wait, forgot about that note first. Okay, so why is the long run average total cost curve U-shaped? And I said not for the same reason as the short run curve. Okay, so not for the same reason, because there is no fixed cost in the long run. Yes?
On the diminishing returns thing, that's not true initially, right? Because like, didn't we say that the first few workers that you hire, that they specialize and...
Oh, that's right, yeah, yeah.
So it's not true initially.
Okay, okay. Now, don't complicate it too much, though. Okay. In general, it's true, yes. All right. Okay, so why would your costs go down in the long run, then? In the long run, as you increase production, you can then cut costs in many different ways. You can like buy in bulk, for example. You can have your workers specialize more, so they're focusing just on certain tasks. And so that will then create economies of scale if you can do that. So as you increase production, you can do those things that help you increase your productivity and bring your costs down. All right, so that would be called, now there's two ways that you can describe that. That would be economies of scale, or you can say increasing returns to scale. Okay, but then businesses that get very large, so when the output is very high, businesses can run into other problems. Okay, so for example, on the news this morning, I saw that Amazon's in trouble, again, this time for selling expired food, so food that's gone bad, right? So that's something that will happen to a big company because they're so big, right? Like, how do they keep track of everything that's being sold, right? They've gotten in trouble before for selling like fake things, for example, right? And it's just because they're so big, it's really hard to monitor everything that's going on. Right? So being able to manage your company when it gets really big becomes really tricky because you can't watch everything that's going on. So mistakes are made. What else will happen? Your workers might start, you know, if you're not watching your workers, what will they do? Well, let's see. They might start stealing from you, or they might just start taking lots of breaks. Right, like cigarette breaks all the time, or they might start spending a lot of time online shopping or on social media, right, when you're not watching them, right? People do this all the time. So, yeah, so when you get a really big company then, and you can't watch your workers all the time, they will start to become less productive because they're not doing what they're supposed to be doing. Okay, so if a firm gets too big, there are coordination and communication problems. Right? So mistakes are made, people are not doing what they're supposed to be doing. And anyway, so that's got the opposite terms, diseconomies of scale or decreasing returns to scale. All right, and last thing, then in the middle of the curve, if your business is growing and your average total costs are not affected by either of those things, then your costs will stay the same. So that's called constant returns to scale. All right, last exercise. Okay, the following table shows average total cost for a coffee shop when they have a varying number of espresso machines. Okay, so espresso machines would be the capital, which would be fixed in the short run, and then in the long run they could change the number of machines. Now, the long run for them wouldn't be very long, right? It's not too difficult to go get another espresso machine. But you can't get it within the day, for example. You know, you'd have to source it out and find the best one. It might take several days to do that. Anyway, okay, so now what we should do for these kinds of exercises is just look at how many machines would they want at each level of output. So we just go along the table and we look for what would be the lowest cost. Okay, so 300 is the lowest number here, so one machine. 275 is the lowest number. 250 is the lowest. 225. And now, next one is 240, which is over here. So that's with two machines. Now that would give them the lowest number. 210. 220. So now when they're producing 700 units, they would rather have three machines. 190 is the lowest. 220. Okay, now four machines would be the lowest. And yeah, for the last one as well. Okay, so now we know which would be the lowest cost. So, first question, if the coffee shop wants to produce 100 coffees, how many machines should they have? All right, well, the lowest cost at 100 is with one machine. If the coffee shop wants to produce 400 coffee, how many machines should they have? One. What about 800 coffees? Yeah, so now three machines will give them the lowest cost. Good. Okay, suppose the coffee shop currently has one espresso machine, and on average they are selling 100 coffees. The next Saturday is really busy and they sell 500 coffees. What is their average total cost for that day? So they've got one machine, they get really busy, they have to make 500 coffees. What will be their average cost? Yeah, $2.50. Because for that day, they just are making do with their one machine. So their average cost would be $2.50. I'll just put it in brackets. If they continue to be busier every day and selling 500 coffees per day, then what would they do in the long run? So if they're continually selling 500 coffees, now they want to have two of them. That's right. So they'll buy another machine. Okay, draw the coffee shop's long-run average total cost curve. So, drawing the long-run average total cost curve is plotting just the yellow numbers, right? Just the lowest possible numbers at each level of output. So just the yellow numbers, okay? All right, so now it's not going to be a straight line. It'll be a bit crooked. We'll do our best. Okay, so at 100, quantity of 100, average cost is 300. At 200, 275. 300, 250. 400, 225. Okay, so that was all with one machine, and now they're going to switch to two machines. So at a quantity of 500, their cost will be 240. a little bit higher. And then at 600, the cost will be 210. And then at 700, they'll now have 3 machines, and their cost is 220, a little bit higher. And then at 800, the cost is 190. And then they'll switch to 4 machines. Their cost would be 190 at 900, and at 1,000, 220. Well, there, yeah. So it's not going to be a straight line. Good, we are done.